Ryan, you and I have talked a lot about regulation, this idea of regulation, which is kind of the cornerstone to your work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found that I'm hearing it a lot more in the work that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
the learning that I'm doing for the work that I'm doing.
Right.
And using it a lot in my addictions work.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you're the expert, what is regulation and why is it a cornerstone? Why is it important?
Good question. So regulation is very key in this type of work, you know. So what regulation means is when I think of a past event, something that happened, how do I presently feel? Does it put me into present fear? Does it put me into sadness, shame, guilt, any of those, you know, negative emotions? Because if it does, bingo, we're not regulated. Okay. So it's super important because that's how the only way that we can get this work going and really move through it in a quick way actually is by regulation. So I need my clients to be able to think of past events and say, it's just the past. I don't like it. You know, we have a lot of things in our past that we don't like necessarily. That is really, really key. So if you think of something in the past and it puts you into intense emotion, that's where you start. Because you have to be regulated. You can't go there. You have to be able to look at the past as an observer and not relive it. Because if you're reliving it, you're re-injuring.
So like I was in a car accident a few years ago, and now I get in my car and I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to point A to point B. That's regulation, correct? So if I was not regulated, I would be getting in my car and kind of maybe shaking, my heartbeat would be up, I would be like, in fear,
right.
anxiety, all of that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's triggers, you know, it's things that actually take you back there. It's people, it's objects, it's in, you know, it's situations. So let's say that you and I are, you know, acquaintances, right? And every time you do something I don't like, I take, let's say this blue clipboard here. Yeah. I take it and I bop you on the head every time you do something I don't like. Okay.
I'm gonna stay away from you.
Yeah, eventually you're not gonna like me.
Right.
We're not gonna have a relationship anymore.
Right.
But let's say that you're sitting in class one day, right? And your neighbor in class takes out their blue binder. Here it goes. And then you're sitting there going, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I'm in threat response. Because this is that trigger back to all those times that I bopped you on the head. Okay. So we want to take that, you know, you might not be able to handle me. Maybe it's too traumatic to think of me, but you can sit in class and go, well, but I'm safe. It's just a blue binder. Okay. So we have to desensitize your emotions having to do with that blue binder. So that would be our first step, you know, so maybe we would work on that. We would work on, you know, regulating, maybe even holding that blue binder. You know, you may never want to actually purchase one or own one, but you should just be okay with it. It shouldn't put you into distress. So that blue binder puts you into that trauma or reminds you of that trauma. So that's what we're working on, is we're working on desensitizing from that. And once we desensitize that emotion, it seems that it never comes back, which is pretty awesome.
And it seems to me that it can be stuff that's a lot more minor than like, okay, you bopped me over the head with a blue binder. I don't like blue binders. But if I have a lot of traumatic events with men, or dogs, or something else, I might just say I hate dogs.
Yeah.
Or my relationships might just always be a little bit rocky. But I'm not avoiding them. It's just like rocky. And so I may not even realize that I'm not regulated.
Right, exactly. Because, and what you're doing is you're just pulling from the past, you know? And so again, that's that regulation piece. Oh, I'm pulling from something from the past and letting it, you know, ruin my present day.
And so that could be like any aspect of our life, like where we're having discomfort or where things aren't going as smoothly. It's likely that we're pulling in the past into the present moment.
Certainly. And it's an automatic reaction. You know, it's an automatic thing that we do because it's information in our subconscious. So our conscious mind is really what tells us what's going on. That's the social norms. That's what we're aware of, you know, and we may look at our life and say, well, I've got, you know, amazing friends, amazing job. I mean, I've got a great life and I really just love my life. But if the information in our subconscious at one point became you're unworthy, you're unloved, you know, any of those things, that information is always going to contradict what you see in reality. And the trouble with that is that your subconscious is really truly you, you know? So again, that's where the mistakes come in. That's why it's actually pretty awesome that we make mistakes sometimes, because that's the information coming from our subconscious to say, hey, pay attention, that information is there. Right. Those behavior patterns are there. So we want to find those and squash those.
What is the effect on a physical level? Because it might be like, okay, well, I just noticed that I avoid dogs or I avoid men. In my mind, I'm like, I'm fine, everything's good. How does that stuff manifest in my body? How do things that we don't deal with manifest in our body over time?
You know, there's becoming all this information about this. I mean, you know, actual studies stating how this actually affects us physically. So it can be physical pain. It really can. So it can also be, maybe we start getting into addictions, which is, you know, your line of work. Addictions typically tend to be, because alcohol is really truly a coping skill. I mean, it is. It's just something that kind of just loosens you up a little bit. It's, you know, it's a social aspect. It can be a fun thing. The problem is that when we're trying to just cover up a trauma or cover up something that is just there that's unaddressed, then all of a sudden now we're an alcoholic, right? So it just gets worse and worse.
Or gambling, or pornography,
Absolutely.
Or Netflix.
It's just something, it's a coping skill that we overuse. So all coping skills can be positive. They can be, you know, good checkouts for a time. They can just be good, you know, relievers. But the trouble with that is that if we continue to use it and don't address the trauma, now we overuse it, and the negatives outweigh the positives of that coping skill. And when that happens, we can no longer use that coping skill.
You do a ton of amazing, by the way, like neuromuscular work and you know, trauma informed body work.
Right. You know, I've read quite a few things. There's Dr. Michael Lincoln. I love him. He's a psychologist. His information has, well, his life's work really has been about
What's his book called?
Messages from the Body. That's the big one that I really love. He's got a few of them, but that book is so cool because, well, his life's work has been about when we leave trauma in the body, how does it actually affect us? So his book, Messages from the Body, is you can literally look up ailments, you know, body parts, and you know, and it's alphabetically, and then that tells you what typical emotions or unaddressed things can lead to that.
And I think we need to be really clear here too, because Louise Hay, she's a remarkable woman, did a lot of really great work. But if I look at her book and I say like neck pain, oh, it means that you hate your mother. I don't hate my mother. Oh my God. You know, so like you said, it like indicates or points to possible.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. What works for one doesn't work for another, right? I mean, everybody is different. So, you know, it's important to have all of these tools, you know, a wide array of tools, because we're all getting to the same result. It's just they're different modalities. They're different ways to get there.
What I often do with my clients on the table is I say, okay, you know, put the needles in, then I leave. And then I say, you know, while you're laying here, as you get relaxed, just say, what is my headache trying to tell me? What is my neck pain trying to tell me? And something will come to mind. And people are like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. But it's like, listen to it. Is it the truth? Maybe, maybe not. But I think this idea of something's true. Your approach is the approach. My approach is the approach. It's like they all point in the same direction.
They certainly do. Yeah. You know, and that's why an integrative approach. I mean, that's a new, you know, key thing. But an integrative approach is really important because you're looking at the whole person and you're saying, you know, it took several things to get to this person to this spot. So it's going to take, you know, several things to fix and repair, and, you know, and to promote change.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. You can find more information on my website, mindfullifeacupuncture.com. And please feel free to call if you have any further questions. And I look forward to meeting you, working with you, and sharing stories. Have a great day.